What's up, players? Welcome to my round 10 tips. New setup. It's a bit sketchy at the moment because, well, we've been in this new house for literally 4 days. So, yeah, not a lot, but a big round of footy and a big month, especially as a Hawks fan. We've got some massive games. We verse every current side in the top six. Obviously, besides ourselves, because, well, you can't play yourself, doy. But, yeah, we've got some massive games coming up, and the first one starts tomorrow night. And, well, here's my round 10 tips and predictions, but tomorrow night we start with Gold Coast taking on the Hawks at TIO Stadium. Last 7 games at this stadium, Gold Coast are undefeated. They've won all 7, and Hawthorn have not beat Gold Coast away from home in 11 years, since 2014. 15 of the 18 wins that have come in this fixture have been the home side taking the victory. And then, you add on top of that, no Luke Bruce, no Jack Gunston is a massive one. Jarman Impey, of course, expecting his kid. And then Lloyd Meek is a massive, massive out. Now, I know they're resting Jared Witts, so this will open the door up for either Ned Reeves or Max Ramsden to, play a whole game as ruck. But, given these things, it's not looking good from a Hawthorn perspective whatsoever. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think we're resting strategically, not risking any injuries, especially to important players like we did with Barras, like we're doing with Meek now. Jack Gunston is obviously the big one because he is absolutely carrying that forward line alongside Marbia Chol. So this will open the door for likely Cal Shadir to return. Jack Scrimshaw will be back. Cam McKenzie will also be back. So we've also got some, and then obviously Tom Barras coming back into the side too. So, we've got some massive ins coming in, don't get me wrong. But Gold Coast just look really good, especially at TIO Stadium. They never lose in the northern end of Australia. And, mate, if the grand final and finals were played here, they would have every premiership by now. But, yeah, I'm going to go Gold Coast by 27 points. I think it will be a comfortable win for them. Friday night footy, we've got Sydney taking on Carlton at the SCG. 2 teams that you just can't tip because Sydney went from having a really, really bad start to the season, beating GWS, and then GWS took that loss, went to GMHBA, beat Geelong, and then Sydney lost pretty embarrassing last week to Essendon, of all teams, and nearly came back. It seems like they don't show up until the last quarter, or sometimes the second half, but it's simply not enough because they let the other teams pull out too much. Whereas you could argue the Hawks kind of didn't show up for the first 3 quarters, but we still were leading all 3 quarters. Didn't deserve it whatsoever. But the fact is that we were leading, for 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter, absolutely kicked off on the Ds. But at the SCG, this one is just a tricky one. But I am going to back Sydney in here. There's no necessary reason. Carlton should get a string of games going, but I just don't trust either side. With how inconsistent both of them have been to actually get a run of games going. And at the SCG with a fired-up crowd, I don't know, I feel like Sydney will just pull off something. It's going to be a close-as game, and it's, one of these games where I just can't tell with these inconsistent clubs. I'm very good at tipping these top teams. I got the GWS Geelong game right. The only top one that I got wrong was Gold Coast Bulldogs, but I got Bulldogs and GWS right. All those Bulldogs games where people weren't necessarily tipping the Dogs as the favourites. I've been right about most Hawthorn games as well. And then just Geelong in general. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. The competition is so close. When the top sides play each other, I do usually get those tips correct, but it's with these inconsistent sides where it's just, you never know. But I'm going to tip Sydney by a goal. I think they'll get it done at the SCG just. First Saturday game, we've got Collingwood taking on Adelaide. This one's going to be a cracking game. Also, I just can't see Sydney starting 3-7. Probably should have added that before I went on to a new game. But, I just can't see them only having 3 wins from their first 10 games. Anyway, on to this game, Collingwood-Adelaide. This one's going to be a cracker. Darcy Moore won't be playing. Jordan De Goey's also out. But the thing is, with Collingwood having outs, they're winning anyways. It's not really affecting how they're playing whatsoever, which is, extremely good. For them at least, not for the competition. This game always seems to be close. I think Collingwood have won, the last 6 or 7 games against Adelaide, and they've always been close, cracking bangers. And I think this one will be the same. It's going to be a close cracking banger. MCG, you're going to have probably 70,000 there because Collingwood obviously draw massive arse crowds. Although, to be fair, this is literally Saturday at 1:20, so it might be a bit less than that. But you'd never doubt the Collingwood army for, showing up for a game of footy. If you do want fans at a place, you take Collingwood there. But, yeah, I think... Yeah, Collingwood do win this, but I'm going to say they win it by just 9 points. Again, I think we're expecting another close round. I think last round was, the closest round in the AFL era in history, which is absolutely crazy. But, yeah. The Cats take on Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide just aren't looking good. They were looking really good when they won 3 games in a row. But that North Melbourne game, really just... started something awful for this side, apparently. Just lost the showdown. They're sitting 13th, Port Adelaide, which is kind of crazy, but I can't say that I didn't call it. But despite all of that, as a Hawks fan, I can't really chat. I mean, look at me hair. I mean, look at what Port Adelaide did to me. Anyway, I'm okay with the loss if it means they don't make finals. Or if we just handed them an early win just to get their hopes up a little bit, just to end their finals hope in Tassie. That'll be beautiful. Anyway, this is at Adelaide Oval. This one never seems to be a close game. People always think it's going to be a cracker, and then Geelong always batter them. I mean, the last 2 times, I think Geelong have battered them by, 70 plus or whatever. So, and they've both been at Adelaide Oval, so Geelong are just an incredible side. And I don't think this will be any different. I don't think they'll batter them by that much, or as much as, the previous results. But I believe Tommy Stewart will be coming back for the Cats this week. So I'm going to go Geelong by 32 points at Adelaide Oval, and they're going to bounce back after a disappointing performance against the Giants. Well, it wasn't disappointing, but they most definitely could have won and put their chances away, which they didn't do. The Giants take on Fremantle, finally at home. This team, never plays at their own home ground, I swear. I think this is their second proper home game, or third, all year. And the other one that I can think of was Collingwood at opening round. And we're round 10 now. So that's kind of crazy. That is ridiculous. GWS, Fremantle are just, very disappointing. GWS had 3 losses in a row, of course. Bounced back against the Cats at GMHBA, which was an expected result. And again, these are 2 teams that are just inconsistent. You don't know how to tip them. Especially Fremantle, they simply can't play away from Optus Stadium. And, they've proven that basically every week. So, again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I think GWS win this and win this quite comfortably. I'm going to say GWS win this by 26. I mean, at home, they've just come off a massive, massive win. I mean, Jesse Hogan just kicked 7, already second in the Coleman despite missing, a few games, which is crazy. He's going to win it back-to-back. He was my other pick if I hadn't have picked Jeremy Cameron, which unfortunately I did. Fremantle, could they pull something off? Maybe. I personally just can't see it. You just never know how these teams are going to show up. But I will be back in the Giants here. The Dogs take on the Bombers. The Bombers, nearly in the 8. They're sitting 9th with a game in hand. They're 5-3 or something ridiculous like that. Honestly, can't believe it. The Bulldogs, finally suffered a loss, and it happened to be Gold Coast at their overpowered fortress. But they still put in a beautiful performance, didn't stop fighting, nearly came back and won the damn thing, which, again, is why I tipped them. Fortunately, couldn't get the job done, obviously. They're still an incredible team. I expect them to bounce back pretty big. Essendon, been doubting them all season, and fairly so. I mean, 5 wins, right, but I think 4 of them come against the bottom 6 teams. Obviously, they've beaten North Melbourne, they've beaten West Coast, they've beaten Sydney, who sit 14th, mind you. And then they beat Port Adelaide, who were 13th, and I can't remember their other win. But, when you're beating 4 of the bottom 6 and you're finally up against a real challenge, a surging Bulldog side, who there's just so much midfield depth there. Fraser, you've got Richards, you've got Liberatore. I mean, Bontempelli's able to roam forward. Treloar, I believe, should be back for this game. I'm not sure why he didn't play last week. I didn't look into the reason. But, they're just stacked, the Dogs. And then you've got one of the best ruckmans, and then that forward line is just scary. The fact that it doesn't have a Darcy or a Cody Waitman or, Ugle-Hagan for obvious reasons, and the fact that they're still looking this dangerous. I mean, they are probably a premiership worthy side right now, and then you add those three names, which, arguably their two best key forwards, and then, their best small forward, you're looking at a scary team. I mean, yeah, that's, Matt Kennedy's been a huge pickup for them as well from the Blues. I'm sure Blues fans are disappointed that they let that one go. But yeah, I will be tipping the Dogs here. I will be tipping them by 22 points. I think Essendon will, still show up. Like, they have not been awful whatsoever. I think if you're an Essendon fan, you're happy where you are. A disappointing loss to Collingwood, sure. But you played good against the Hawks when we did beat you. And again, you're just sitting out of the 8. So it's nothing to be, with a game in hand, mind you. So it's nothing to be disappointed about whatsoever. So yeah, I've got the Dogs, bouncing back and winning this game. And, that's about it. Should it be prime time? I mean, if the Dogs are playing, I guess so. But Essendon really seem to bore out games for, the neutral watching. But yeah, I'm going the Dogs for this one. I just ranted for no reason. Richmond take on the Kangaroos. Another wooden spoon battle, you could consider this. I mean, Richmond came out the winners last weekend against the Eagles in that wooden spoon battle. Although it wasn't really a wooden spoon battle, because coming into it, Richmond aren't even sitting second last, or weren't coming into it, I should say. And they had 2 wins clear of West Coast. If West Coast had won that, they'd still be a win behind Richmond. But North Melbourne, you need to highlight them. They've had very close games. I mean, they just drew to your minor and people want to bring up, the last time Brisbane drew in this time slot last year. I mean, you're comparing 2 completely different teams. A draw against Adelaide, who, sure, were bottom 4, but lad, they had, 10 or 11 wins as a bottom 4 side. That's just absurd. But you're going to compare that to North Melbourne, who, has 10 wins in the last 4 years. Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, North Melbourne have not been playing awful. They barely lost to Essendon. They were very close to beating Port Adelaide again. They just need to put their chances away. This is their winnable game. This is the one where they can walk into. Like, Clarko's seeing some strong signs finally with this group. We all thought, all these bag-out games were going to end after the Melbourne game, and they were going to continue to be very, very competitive and pick up wins and be close, but they haven't shown any of that until the last couple of weeks. Again, a 3-point loss to Essendon, who, again, are nearly in the 8. Port Adelaide at Adelaide is a dangerous side, nevertheless. I mean, you can ask us. North Melbourne put up a better performance than we did against Port Adelaide, so you've got to credit them for that. And then drawing with Brisbane. Yes, it was at Ninja Stadium, but they're going to see this game as a winnable game. Tom Brown did save the Tigers last weekend, but I'm actually going to tip North Melbourne here. I think they'll win this by 16 points. I think Richmond have, not been as competitive. I mean, we smacked the living daylights out of them. It wasn't even close, and very well could have won by 3 digits if we had put our own chances away. Our own chances away, as well as not be so sloppy with our ball use. And then Richmond, barely beating West Coast, who coming in were 0-8. They are now 0-9. So, yeah, some crazy levels here, but I'm going to tip North Melbourne by 16. I just have a feeling they'll get the edge over the Tigers and finally get that win they've been looking for. But if Richmond win this, they might not be a bottom 4 side by the end of the year. Or if they are, they'll be 15th. Brisbane at the Gabba taking on the D's. They had a disappointing game last weekend against North Melbourne. Obviously, the draw that I was just talking about. But hey, the good sides do have those poor games here and there. You saw Sydney, who lost to last place Richmond last year. You go back to 2023, where both Brisbane and Collingwood, your grand finalists, lost to the bottom 3 Hawthorn side. You look at Geelong, who also lost to Hawthorn in their 2022 premiership season, and the Hawks finished 13th that season, weren't very good whatsoever. And then you could even go back to 2021, where again a near bottom four side Hawthorn, picked up a draw against your premiership winning side. So, in Melbourne, and then you could even go to Richmond the year before, where I think we beat them in 2020 actually, and we were a bottom six side throughout every single year that I just named. But obviously there are other results that those top teams had. Like a Geelong getting battered by Gold Coast by 10.5 goals, and nearly making the granny last year. But my point is these top teams do have some really bad games here and there. It is okay. And especially when you're travelling so much, playing so many of these Sunday games as well, the poor Brisbane Lions. But they're going to bounce back here. I'm 100% certain. Against Melbourne, who, aren't horrible, but there are levels to this game. And at the Gabba, Brisbane are going to show, and they're going to show massively. They're going to win this one quite comfortably. I think they'll win this one by 42 points. So yeah, that I see them bouncing back here, and despite their draw, they're still top of the ladder. Some people, can criticise Hawthorn and Brisbane, who are sitting first and third, for how sloppy and how scrappy their wins have been. But the thing is they're winning games, and even in those, tough games, Brisbane beat Geelong, Hawthorn barely lost to Geelong. They've also beaten, obviously, the Giants. Other than that, they haven't really played any quality sides. You could add Carlton to that list, given, what they've shown in recent weeks. Sydney are still a quality side, despite how they've started their season. So, both of these sides, Brisbane also beat Sydney. Both of these sides have had some good wins. But the next month, especially for Hawthorn, is a real test, a massive test at where they truly are, whether they are contenders or pretenders. And Brisbane are just going to, keep on going with the wins, and after round 10 they're only going to have one loss, and they'll comfortably, or maybe not comfortably, but they will be top of the ladder, and you can only give them credit for that. If being top of the ladder after 10 rounds of footy, and top 4 for Hawthorn's case is them being pretenders and playing very sloppy footy, then I would be terrified if you are a rival or a competitive fan for that, that doesn't support either club, because, besides Collingwood, I don't think anyone grazes the top 3 at the moment. Because that 4th slot, you could fit Geelong in there, you could fit the Dogs, you could fit the Suns. Adelaide might even be a shout for that spot. Maybe even the Giants, but I think the top 3 currently are clear. The round ends with West Coast at home taking on the Saints. 0-9 are the Eagles, and they're going to go 0-10 here. St Kilda will win this one. Again, a shaky, inconsistent side. You just don't know what you're going to get from the Saints, but they should win this. They should be beat. I don't care that it's played at Optus. Can I see a world where West Coast win? I can, yeah, absolutely I can. But I think St Kilda are just, they're too good, They're not good, but they've had some quality wins, to be fair to them. They've beaten Geelong, they smashed Fremantle, and, it wasn't even close. But then again, they have those drop-offs, against the Carlton side, who haven't been playing well themselves. So, again, they're another weird, inconsistent side, but you should be beating last place West Coast, whether it's at home or not. If Gold Coast can come here, a team who's not known for travelling well whatsoever, again, a massive reason they didn't play finals footy last season, can travel there and whack this team by 80, then I don't see why St Kilda can't bounce back after a relatively disappointing week. But, bounce back and get a win against the bottom of the ladder. You do not want to be the team to lose to West Coast. Oh, Jesus. Apologies. You don't want to be the team to lose to West Coast, and whoever does, unless it's Richmond, you're not getting any remorse. North Melbourne, you should be out of that phase well by now, and then any other team, unless you have something absolutely tragic happen, like literally 15 of your starting players getting injured just before you have to verse West Coast at Optus Stadium, or something crazy would have to happen during the game, like several injuries, for you to even not get made fun of. But at this point, it's just losing to West Coast. Whoever does it is going to get bantered for the rest of the season. But yeah, St Kilda will win this. They'll win this one by 38 points and have a nice bounce back win. They're still fighting and pushing for the 8. Again, they're a weird side, but they do always do this every year. I'm still very confident in saying that they won't win. But they should be, yeah, winning this game. So yeah, there's my tips right there. I've got Gold Coast beating the Hawks, Sydney bouncing back at home against the Blues. I've got Collingwood beating Adelaide in another tight one. Geelong will comfortably get over the Power. Giants will comfortably, at home, finally get over Fremantle. The Dogs will bounce back after still a good performance last week against also good performing Essendon last week, but nearly choked it. North Melbourne will finally get a win as they've been finding some decent form. Haven't been winning games, but, you know, hey, they've got to get one eventually, and they've been playing some class sides over the last few weeks. Again, Essendon sit ninth. Port Adelaide at Adelaide's just a hard game overall. I know they're 13th, but still, compared to North Melbourne, that's way better. And then top of the ladder, minor premiers, Brisbane. A draw is not a bad result whatsoever, so I think they get that win. Brisbane will beat Melbourne, you know, a massive bounce back. They'll do that comfortably. And then West Coast will start their season 0-10 as the Saints strive for the top 8 spot. Anyway, those are my round 10 tips. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, who you've tipped, what I've got wrong. The season total, I think I only have 53 tips right for the season or something like that. If you're in my tipping competition, you can just go check yourself. You have to add one to that, though, because somehow the app changed my tip a couple of weeks ago from Collingwood to Essendon. I know I didn't change that. And I would have 57 or, you know, something like that. 3 extra if I didn't change my tips late. Essendon, I did not change my tip late to Essendon. I would, you know, admit if I changed my tip late. But I did change the Collingwood Brisbane one. I changed to Brisbane last minute. I changed to Sydney last minute against Collingwood. And then I changed to Collingwood last minute against Geelong. So I got those 3 tips wrong because I changed them late, which I've got to stop doing. But yeah, we had a good week last week, 7 out of 9. Of course, the Dogs just fell short. It was an awesome round of footy. And then I think, I forgot the other game that I got wrong. It was probably the first Saturday game that I just can't quite think of right now. But yeah, not a bad round whatsoever. And we'll see you tomorrow on the live stream for Hawthorn Gold Coast. We're back, baby. Alright!